General Hospital spoilers tease that Sasha is gradually realizing that what she is enduring is no longer just a quiet personal torment but part of a chain of events silently reshaping the future of everyone around her. Since giving birth in chaotic circumstances, her heart has never truly found peace. It was not only the confusion of an unplanned pregnancy but also the consequence of wrong choices, weakness at the harshest moments, and blind trust in people who should never have been trusted. But what keeps Sasha awake every night is the secret she's hiding, the true identity of the baby's father. A truth that, if revealed, could shake every existing relationship, shatter illusions of happiness carefully nurtured by those who have no idea they're living in a lie. Willow is the only person Sasha does not want to hurt but cannot avoid hurting. Because Willow is caught in the whirlwind Sasha helped create. Sasha has seen Willow cling to fragile hopes of a complete family with Michael and the 2 children, but Sasha knows all too well that this whole picture was stained by mistakes long before it even formed. And now, with each passing day, the child grows in the arms of a man who is not the real father, while the true father lives in a dangerous state of manipulation and deception, all stemming from one night Sasha wishes she could erase from her memory. Yet, when the pressure becomes unbearable and memories of the birth and the baby's first bewildered gaze flood her mind, Sasha cannot endure any longer. She realizes that staying silent will not only destroy herself but also drag Willow into a vivid nightmare. So, she decides to reveal everything, not through a gentle conversation, nor waiting for the perfect moment, but with a raw and choked confession, that the real father is not Michael, but someone else. A truth that, once known, Willow will never see the world the same way again. The moment Sasha faces Willow to confess is like time stops. No sound, nothing but 2 women who once were friends now confronting each other as betrayer and victim. Every word Sasha utters feels like a knife stabbing her own conscience but also a shattering heartbeat for Willow. The truth is too painful, too shocking, and too close for Willow to defend against. The real father's name hits like a thunderbolt. A name tied to mistakes, lies, and wounds Willow had tried to forget. In that instant, a new wave of obsession surges, not just for Willow but for Sasha as well. Because they both understand that this confession is not the end of the story but the beginning of a chain reaction that will break everything apart. Willow must not only face the reality that she has been deceived but also a decision with no turning back. Can she forgive? Can she accept that the child she cares for daily does not truly belong to her family as she once believed? Meanwhile, Sasha, freed from the burden of silence, must brace herself for the consequences. She knows she may lose everything, friendship, trust, and perhaps even the chance to remain close to the child she gave birth to. But she also knows that in this chaos, truth is the only thing that can save them from total collapse. And if the truth is not the starting point, the future of all involved will only be a series of lies leading inevitably to destruction. Sasha's life once again falls into the epicenter of an emotional earthquake, and this time, no one can stand outside it. Everyone will be swept into this truth: Michael, Drew, Carly, Sunny, and most importantly, Willow. Because from the moment Sasha confesses, none of them will live as they once did. Sasha increasingly feels drawn into a legal battle that is not hers but threatens to destroy the life she's trying to protect. After all the tragedies she's endured, from the pain of losing a child, broken trust in herself and others, to the journey of reclaiming sanity after months of psychological turmoil, Sasha's only remaining desire is to be a mother, to love and protect the child she sacrificed everything to keep. But in Port Charles, that simple dream feels further away than ever, especially as she is caught in a silent power storm where every action and word is watched, manipulated, and twisted to serve the hidden agendas of those who seem to stand by her side. Willow, once a close friend and ally, has now become a crucial part of a legal strategy orchestrated by Drew. She approaches Sasha with promises to help her regain custody, to stand in court defending the image of a repentant mother trying to start over. Willow speaks gently and with sympathetic eyes, but in every gesture and touch, Sasha senses a cold emptiness, a void of someone hiding true motives. Sasha knows Willow wants to turn her into living evidence, a strategic pawn to strip Michael of custody of Wiley and also win custody of Amelia for herself by proving Michael is an unfit father, incapable of providing a stable environment for any child, including Sasha's. Drew is even more direct. He approaches Sasha not with comfort but with hard legal promises wrapped in jargon. If you testify this way, we can guarantee custody for you. But each time Sasha agrees, a small part of her heart breaks. Because she knows it means stabbing Michael in the back, the one shoulder she leaned on when the world turned away from her. No matter their conflicts, Michael was the first to pull her from the darkest days, the one who never left her when she lost everything, even herself. And now, she's becoming a tool to destroy him? Each passing day piles more pressure. Willow and Drew relentlessly push her to decide. Private meetings, promises that no one will know, that this is the only way to keep your child, all whisper into Sasha's ears like tempting murmurs. She starts to be torn apart inside. One part of her wants to fight for her child at any cost, but another cannot deny the guilt gnawing at her soul. She knows if she testifies according to Drew's plan, she not only betrays Michael but also betrays the ideals she's trying to hold on to live honestly, decently, and with truth. The breaking point comes when Willow proposes what seems like a reasonable solution: joint custody. Sasha would have the right to care for her child, but in exchange, she must stand in court and confirm that Michael is mentally unstable, has manipulated her, and allowed her to live in unsafe conditions. Willow says this will help Sasha gain freedom, that the child needs a mother, that the legal system won't side with a recovering addict unless there's a reason to deem Michael unfit. Sasha understands this offer is nothing but emotional blackmail. At that moment, Sasha realizes she faces a new kind of oppression, not from courts or laws, but from those she once trusted. Once again, she becomes a pawn in someone else's game. Once again, she is pushed to the edge between right and wrong, between protecting herself or doing what's right. But this time, she decides she will not be silent. She cannot continue living haunted by the idea that her child is being raised through a legal victory steeped in scheming and betrayal. She chooses to step out of the trap set by Drew and Willow, even knowing this choice might cost her everything. Because for Sasha, truth has always been the strongest weapon. And even if it destroys everything, at least she will no longer live in someone else's shadow. In the harsh light of justice and deceit, she chooses to step forward, carrying pain, courage, and determination to protect her child without betraying anyone. And from that moment on, no one can control Sasha anymore. She is no longer a victim. She is a survivor. The ongoing story in Port Charles no longer revolves merely around simple confrontations fueled by emotions or power, but has now reached the depths of truth, justice, and personal honor. Jason and Anna, two people who once stood on opposite sides of a battlefield, are now united with a single goal: to protect Sasha, the woman being turned into a legal pawn in the custody battle among those who claim to be family. For Jason, silence is no longer an option. He has witnessed too much exploitation, deception, and actions disguised by moral arguments that ultimately serve personal ambitions. As for Anna, who once bore the heavy burden of moral duty and responsibility, this time she fights not for the law but against the injustice falling upon a woman too exhausted to defend herself. In their eyes, Sasha is not just a single mother struggling with her past and present but a symbol of weakness abused by the system and turned into a mere chess piece in a power game. Jason and Anna's intervention is not born from pity but from the realization that Sasha is being pushed to the edge by those who once promised to help stabilize her life. Drew and Michael, two men who once held important places in Sasha's life, are now ready to place their personal interests above her dignity. Michael, bitter from past disputes, wants to eliminate all risks concerning Wiley and Amelia, even if it means Sasha losing custody. Drew, who once promised to help Sasha recover, now uses his influence to force her to testify according to a scripted scenario, all to strengthen Willow's position in the lawsuit. To them, Sasha is just a card to be played, nothing more. But Jason sees Sasha differently. To him, she is a person, a victim of a system forcing her to choose between honesty and motherhood. Together with Anna, Jason begins gathering evidence showing that Drew and Michael have been covertly manipulating Sasha. From false promises to legal documents crafted to steer her testimony. Anna, using her investigative skills and experience from her WSB days, quietly expands surveillance and uncovers secret meetings, hidden recordings, and lawyer transactions Sasha was never informed about. Pieces of the truth start to emerge, and both Jason and Anna understand that without timely action, Sasha will be coerced into false testimony, resulting in losing her children, and possibly facing countercharges. The situation grows more complicated when Michael realizes Jason's involvement, forcing him to reconsider his entire strategy. Meanwhile, Drew, who has been involved in shady dealings since secretly collaborating with Nina, starts fearing that Jason might expose his murky activities, especially the misuse of Aurora's resources to fund personal legal battles. Pressure from both sides makes Drew and Michael more reckless, ready to take extreme actions to protect what they believe to be father's rights and family stability. Jason and Anna understand that truth is not always protected by the legal system. They know courts can be easily manipulated by fabricated records, sharp lawyers, and coached witnesses. Therefore, they decide to bring all evidence to light. Not only to protect Sasha but also to prevent Drew and Michael from turning the court into a tool of revenge and control. This confrontation is not merely between individuals but between ethical principles. Jason, a man living in the shadows yet fiercely loyal to those he cares about, will not allow Sasha to be crushed just because she is the weakest link. Anna, a woman who once buried many truths to protect the organization, now chooses to stand by an individual because she knows no law justifies silence in the face of injustice. Port Charles once again becomes a battleground of silent wars, where every decision and action carries the explosive power of a detonated bomb. Sasha stands at a crossroads of truth, loyalty, and freedom. Beside her, Jason and Anna fight not only to preserve her right to motherhood but also to uphold the last remaining principle in a world where ethics and power are increasingly distorted. Michael never imagined a day would come when he would face Sasha as an adversary. Despite the many ups and downs over the years, Michael had always maintained some faith in Sasha's inherently good nature, the woman who stood by him during the darkest moments of his life. But now, that faith is shattered when he discovers Sasha has chosen to side with Willow in the custody battle and is willing to testify against him in court. Michael's anger is more than just the disappointment of a betrayed man, it is an eruption of layered emotions, pain, humiliation, and helplessness as those closest to him turn their backs. What angers him most is realizing he no longer controls the legal battle's progression. Drew, once an ally, has become a calculating adversary, dragging Willow, Michael's ex-wife, into a covert alliance. Sasha, a victim of a life full of loss and sorrow, should have understood the feeling of exploitation, yet now she allows herself to be drawn into family political games. Michael feels he is fighting alone, not just for father's rights but for the dignity and fairness he once believed in. In his anger, Michael turns to Carly, the mother who has always been his strongest support during crises. But this conversation is more than just mother-son sharing. It's an emergency strategy session between two blood relatives to plan survival in an increasingly brutal war. Carly also feels insulted witnessing Sasha, the woman who once called her a friend, now turning away and using her own child as a pawn in court. For Carly, this is not merely a legal battle but a direct affront to trust and loyalty, values she holds above any law. Both Michael and Carly understand that without immediate action, they risk losing everything. Carly mobilizes all her connections and resources to find weaknesses in Sasha's testimony. Michael, though deeply hurt, remains calm to restructure his legal strategy. He knows any mistake now could cost him custody of Wiley and Amelia, the two children who mean the world to him. In his mind, Sasha's testimony for Willow is like a dagger to his heart, not just because it hurts him but because it could steal what he holds most sacred. Simultaneously, Michael begins suspecting that Sasha acts under pressure from Willow and Drew. He recalls recent conversations where Sasha seemed confused, conflicted, and often avoided his gaze. This raises a fear that Sasha is not acting for herself but due to promises or threats from those manipulating the case behind the scenes. This thought fuels his anger, because if true, Sasha is once again a victim of a greater force beyond her control. Meanwhile, on the other side, Willow maintains a calm yet cold demeanor. She knows that making Sasha a witness will permanently break her relationship with Michael but is willing to sacrifice that to gain full custody of Amelia, the child she believes must be protected from Carly and the Corinthos family. Sasha, out of emotional debt and empathy for Willow, agrees to testify, unaware that this act ignites an emotional bomb that Michael and Carly will not hesitate to detonate if necessary. Once again, Port Charles becomes the focal point of a relentless family war. Those who once loved each other and shared beds and meals now point daggers at one another in a battle with no true winners. As Michael and Carly prepare for a strong counterattack, Sasha, who seemed to have regained peace, finds herself slipping into a vortex of regret, fear, and isolation. And the biggest question remains, will Michael choose revenge or forgiveness? Will Carly wield all her power to crush Sasha, or will there be a chance for reconciliation before everything is burned in the fury of betrayal? After Sasha revealed the secret about Michael, a life that once seemed peaceful and stable in everyone's eyes completely collapsed. She couldn't admit that speaking the truth was the right thing to do, but a part of her understood that if she hadn't, the deep wounds would never heal. When Sasha's words echoed in the courtroom like a bolt from the blue, they not only shook the solid foundations Michael had built over the years but also began to shatter all the relationships he had carefully maintained. The secret that Michael had abused his power to manipulate medical decisions involving Wiley, a child he had treated like his own, drastically changed how the public and the court saw him. From a loving and responsible father, Michael was now viewed as a deceiver, someone unworthy of raising his own children. This was not only a huge shock to him but a disaster for the Corinthos family, whose reputation suffered severe damage in the eyes of the public and their partners. In the moments that followed, Michael realized he was not just facing the loss of custody, but the loss of everything he once had. His family's trust, friends' respect, and most importantly, the image he had tirelessly tried to build. He couldn't understand why Sasha would do such a thing, especially when she was once the one who shared his pain and longing for a happy family. At this point, the betrayal was not only about losing a woman he once loved but also about losing trust within the very family he had worked so hard to build. In his anger and pain, Michael turned to Carly, the mother who had always stood by him and protected him. However, this time their conversation was not just about sharing sorrow but a tense confrontation between two people who shared the goal of protecting the family but were divided by different views on Sasha's actions. Carly, unable to bear watching her son crushed by suspicion and betrayal, decided to take a stand and called for a strategy to counter Sasha, Drew, and Willow to regain control and protect the family's honor and interests. Yet, while Carly ordered everyone to act, Michael, deeply wounded, realized he had to face this profound change himself and find a way to stand up. But for Michael, dealing with Sasha was not simply a legal or family battle. He was not only losing his fatherly rights over the children he loved but also losing the humanity he had always been proud of. Despite his anger, Michael could do nothing to change the publicly revealed truth. He began to realize that Sasha's choice, though painful, was actually the price he had to pay for his own mistakes. For years, he had lived in a fabricated picture of perfection, a father who never erred, a husband who never failed. Now, this harsh truth had exposed everything. After speaking out, Sasha also knew there was no turning back. She understood she would face consequences. She was not only met with Michael's fury but also the alienation of those closest to her. In Sasha's heart, the pain was not just about losing love but realizing she had lost herself in this battle. No old friends remained, no one stood by her now. She understood that even if she could justify her actions, she could not avoid Michael's revenge, and she feared how far his anger might go. But above all, Sasha felt a loneliness she couldn't put into words. Because despite the betrayal and deception, she still loved the child in her womb, and Michael's departure forced her to face that truth. Sasha's decision to flee Port Charles was not an act of cowardice. It was the last choice of a woman who had witnessed everything fall apart and could do nothing but leave. But Sasha also knew that running away would not heal these wounds. On the contrary, it would make everything worse. Michael and Carly would never forgive her easily, and there would be no place left for her in this town. When Sasha fled, she left a deep mark on the lives of Michael, Carly, and all of Port Charles. The betrayal was not just an emotional loss but a major shock in an escalating legal battle. Michael now faced not only losing custody but also the irreparable wounds from those he had trusted completely. His future was no longer bright, and he had to confront new haunting shadows closing in on him. As for Sasha, despite running away, she could not escape the complexity of the story she had set in motion.